Hello. Welcome to the Texas Municipal League Intergovernmental Principles Loss Prevention webinar. My name is Chris Remmert, and with me today is Ted Mendoza.
Good afternoon, Chris. Appreciate the opportunity to come out and talk about a very important topic with our members.
And this is a specialized topic that we put together. It's public housing authorities, liability, and safety. We have about 370 housing authorities that are members of the risk pool spread all across the state. And it's tough to get out to every single one of them to provide some training and information about this. So we wanted to reach out electronically through this webinar, and so people can watch it and take notes on their own time and be able to go over this information. Yep. So we really hope that you enjoy this program today. Topics of discussion. We're going to give an overview of the loss history and some of the issues that we've seen with claims at public housing authorities, with the idea to reduce those costs that will come back and affect the housing authority budgets. So we've looked since 2012 up to about this year.
Just recently,
and just recently in the areas of workers' compensation, general liability, and property, and how these relate to maintenance issues and prevention measures, with the idea that let's be reasonable and practical about what can be done to manage risk in a housing authority.
Right.
So our first overview that we want to provide is on workers' compensation. And there's about 1,000 claims that have been reported during this time. Ted, tell us about that.
One of the items that we continue to see, not just at single housing authority, but throughout all our members, strains and sprains from lifting, falls, slips and trips, and cuts and contusions. The cuts and contusions, what we've seen, are preventable. A lot of times they're handling sharp objects, cut broken bottles, items like that, cut windows that are broken without any safety protection. So those are very important. It's very important for you to talk to your building maintenance employees, staff, on wearing the PPE. Very important to be wearing that. Fall, slips, and trips, again, continue to be the driving force that's out there. A lot of these types of claims are preventable that we've seen. Either they're talking on the cell phone, texting, or even talking to another individual and not looking at that environment. So it's very important to reiterate to your staff to take the time, look at your environment, look at your surroundings, look at your equipment before you go out and do that particular project. Again, strains and sprains is a predominant. You can see the pie chart that it is a good portion of that. It's very important to get with your building maintenance and understand good proper lifting techniques, using good tools, using assisted lifting devices to help them pick up those objects.
Well, and something that you said about PPE, fit is important. And sometimes you may look at gloves and you may get a one-size-fits-all, but you've got different people with different sets of hands, and having the right fit could be important.
Yes.
So if you have a use issue, go back and look, is it fitting properly, or is it appropriate for that individual? Right. Same thing with eyewear, eye protection, the over-the-glasses type eyewear, or maybe there's some other specialized things that need to be done. Yeah. And still, be able to make the employee able to use it because of fit.
Yeah, and condition as well. Make sure that PPE is in good condition, that the gloves, is not worn, that the safety eyewear is not occluded or scratched so they can't see it. So, looking at the condition of that plays another role in prevention.
And we do have some specialized training in different areas related to safety issues through our online learning and our video library, as well as classroom training that might be in your area.
Yeah. A lot of tools, a lot of resources to help your folks out in the field.
Another issue area that affects housing authorities is property, and damage to a building means that housing authority is not able to provide a service to an individual or a number of individuals. Yeah. And there's some causes for reasons why not able to use those buildings, or maybe why that they suffer damage. So talk to us about that, Ted.
As you can see the pie chart there, out of 727 claims, 245 are related to wind and hail. So it's very important to look at your buildings, look at the condition of it, because if you have missing shingles, additional weather to that with missing shingles, great additional damage on there. So it's very important to have those units occupied. You know, they're a very important resource to the community to have those areas. So very important to look at it, look at the condition of it. If you have missing building components, you know, replace those before those storms coming.
If you have gutters, check the gutters to be sure they're draining properly.
Look at gutters, look at lighting, electrical lighting on the outside. So there's a lot of items out there that we could look at with all the warning devices that are out there regarding storms. We could really prepare for those potential issues from occurring.
And the second cause there is fire.
Fire, you know, cooking. You have tenants that are cooking and accidentally leave and then come back, and there's a grease fire. Automatically, they're going to say grease and water just because of natural instincts. And you know, grease and fire. You know what's going to happen? You know, grease, water, and fire.
It spreads the fire.
Spreads the fire.
Put it out.
Yeah. So very important to educate your tenants regarding how to you know, stop a fire from moving on.
The third cause that we have there, water damage, and those can be related to toilets or sinks or other pipes that overflow and cause damage to flooring, and it means you got to stop and clean up a mess.
Yeah. Right now we're in summer mode, so that also means our air conditioners are working overtime and removing that moisture from the air. So if you don't have those condensation lines cleared or those condensation pans clean, they could always overflow and go into the tenant's unit.
So another cause of claims dealing with motor vehicles. Motor vehicles will crash into fences or crash into other parts of housing authority property. So you may have to look at how parking curbs or some other things may be situated, maybe to help stop that. Lighting, which also goes into theft and vandalism and security patrols, some claims associated with that. And then a few, and it depends on the weather. You know, if you're watching this in the summertime, obviously freezing is not an issue, but in the wintertime it is.
Yes.
And those are preventable in the case of knowing what to do to protect the pipes, or keeping the heat on,
Right.
Or you know, wrapping things up. If you're properly preparing for or letting water drip for freezing events. And so those are preventable as well. It's just making sure that, hey, oh, wait a minute, it might happen on a weekend. This
Right.
freeze might happen on a weekend,
Yep.
so we've got to do some preparation on Friday or Thursday before to be ready for that. And let the residents know, you know, that there's freeze in effect.
Yeah, and if it's also important to let your residents know if they see a pipe that's not wrapped, not insulated, fill out a form so that information can get back to you, so that way a work order can be done and fix that. So simple items.
Now, protection of the residents themselves, and this is where the general liability comes into play, or even guests, people that come to the housing authority property. You know, what can be done, or what do we see there with protecting their interests?
Well, false slips and trips, as well as the workers' comp, is second leading causes of injuries that we're seeing, as well as the primary liability. So it's very important to have your staff go out and walk the areas, look for potential issues that may be in pathways. If there's water, standing water in areas, you know, make sure those are properly taken care of, and as well as even notifying tenants, hey, there's water there, put a sign there, so that way they can walk around there, items like that. So those are some really basic things to do on preventing false slips and trips.
And then another category that comes up is being struck by different objects. Tell us about that, being struck by something.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward to hear struck by something, but a lot of times we're seeing these primarily through mowers. Mowers will pick up debris and it becomes a projectile and strike either an individual or a vehicle or even a structure. So it's very important to do a pre-inspection of that work area. When you're out, when your folks are getting ready to mow, weedy, you know, those are good things to look at. Even tree limbs, if you have a lot of tree limbs, old tree limbs that are just, you know, wood rot or whatever that may be, you know, get those pruned back, get those removed, so that way you don't accidentally fall down and damage a structure or property or an individual. Next thing is building components, gutters. You mentioned gutters, very important to look at those components, make sure they're fixed to the structure. So,
Because there have been claims where somebody's in their unit and cabinet falls on them or light fixture or something to that effect. And so making sure they're properly attached, inspected, and have work order system to take care of any issues that come up.
Right.
So that leads us into housekeeping. Some points that you want to make about housekeeping.
Housekeeping is very important because, as y'all know, you have other entities that come out to your facilities and do audits and inspections. So preparing for those really is important. And again, they make the product, the buildings last longer. So doing scheduled and unscheduled inspections play an important role in keeping those areas up to date.
And some specific areas to look at in housekeeping and inspections for safety of the employees. Ladders and stairways, making sure the ladders are appropriate for the job and they're still in good condition. We have another webinar and online learning on ladder safety specifically. It's time well spent because of the potential catastrophic from a fall, even from 5 feet up. And you don't think it's that high, but it could really hurt somebody if they land in the wrong way. Checking extension cords. If you're out doing work, checking the cords and trip hazards that may be affecting residents, or making sure the extension cords are appropriate for the job and still in good condition. Any painting equipment, mowers and edgers, some other areas that we, like you said, with thrown rocks. Leaving things laying around, tools, oil and water on the floor, either pick it up or put it away. It's kind of just making sure you don't put that away, you don't put that aside. I need to stop what I'm doing to take care of this because it could affect somebody else. Longer term or medium term, looking for cracks and crevices in sidewalks. A lot of people texting and looking at their phones, and they're not going to see those cracks in the sidewalk, and they could fall. And stairs and handrails, sometimes you may have to paint stairs, make them more visible for people that are trying to get to another area. Some examples, keeping, if you've got material storage, something on the top rack, is it heavy? If there's a reason for that to be there, or is it, if you're going to be lifting it, that might result in a lifting injury.
I agree. We go into a complacency mode, and you just put those products in an empty spot, and putting those heavy items could create an injury, or even collapse that shelving could create an issue there. So yes.
And then building maintenance.
Well, as the photo shows, there's a lot of potential issues that could create an issue here. Pests and rodents could go into that. Moisture could go into that. Even continued damage to the structure. So very important to do good maintenance and follow up regarding items that you see out there.
So you mentioned this, and fire is a second leading cause of property damage with housing authorities. It also has resulted in some general liability claims in that people's property is damaged by smoke and fire. They'll file a claim for that. Or maybe they've suffered some sort of injury, and if they go back and look at the cause, they're going to say maybe that somebody was at fault for that, and they weren't necessarily in the unit where the fire occurred or had anything to do with it, but they're filing a claim related to that. So it also can result in serious injuries. So here's some thoughts about fire.
Again, going back to cooking, it is the leading cause of apartment fires and the second most frequent cause of single-family residential fires. So it's really important to educate your tenants regarding cooking, fire protection, use, not taking the batteries out of the smoke alarms, so you even got that. Even if you have carbon monoxide alarms, very important to make sure those batteries are in there. So very important to educate and continue to educate your tenants regarding that.
And there's pamphlets you may want to distribute, or maybe little sessions. If you're going to have a program, you may want to say, hey, let's have a safety minute and talk about cooking safety, just to be able to emphasize the importance of that. You mentioned, knowing what to do if there's grease that catches on fire, don't throw water on it. Knowing simple steps with a fire extinguisher, having them available or making them easy to use. If it's not the resident who's able to put the fire out, maybe somebody else looks at it and is able to do something with it, or you definitely know to call 911 and get the fire department involved. Yeah. But certainly your employees should know how to use fire extinguishers.
Yeah. Another item regarding that is emergency exiting. Should a fire be in there, let your residents know, where to exit should a fire block a particular area. So that's another important part of educating your tenants.
An evacuation plan, educating the children about not playing with matches, other inspections, other items that may not be allowed in the housing authority, including open flames, certain types of electrical devices. So there's lots of fire exposure there, but there's always something to cover with that because there's different ways that fire can happen, and you have to address them. But some of the major ones include cooking and playing with matches.
Even barbecuing outside on the balcony, that too close to the building could create an issue. So
in electrical issues, one photo here regarding a plug that was improperly it was basically damaged, and they cut the prong off in order to be able to use the outlet, and even put an adapter on there that wasn't used for that. So appliances need to follow amperage levels that are appropriate for the unit or electrical system. Certain items may not be allowed. Certain space heaters can draw a lot of power, electrical space heaters, and this can be very dangerous and can result in electrical fires.
Good point, Chris.
So good housekeeping and fire prevention, and failure to routinely inspect can cost heavily. And we say this a lot: inspect and correct. And so you inspect something, but then you have a procedure to correct it. And if all else fails, too, claims can happen. Claims will happen. Prevention method is to make sure that your property is adequately scheduled, that you have all of the buildings and property listed on the schedule, that any contents or any issues that you would want to address there that are on the schedule, and evaluations attached to those. Review those. If you're new to the housing authority and you see this list of property, take a good look at it to be sure that there's not something missing. So property scheduling evaluation, work with your member services department and underwriting to get that taken care of. It's a very important prevention method, and making sure that we get that taken care of. Back injury prevention.
Going back to the workers' comp pie chart, that was the leading number of claims that we're seeing. Again, going back and educating your staff on proper ways of lifting. If the object is too heavy, maybe take it out in sections. Disassemble it and move it out. You were mentioning assisted lifting devices and different types of tools to do that. Those are great, as well as the back injury prevention program that we have could really help educate your employees on proper ways of lifting, even pivoting. How pivoting can also help on reducing slip, trips, and falls.
So back injury prevention program is specific. We have that on online training, as well as a separate video program with a manual for train the trainer purposes, or training the group, and it's very, very simple to follow through. Motor vehicle safety. This is any operation that has vehicles is going to have this exposure. Taking a look at your vehicles, inspect them, make sure they're properly have tire pressure, all the wipers work, lights work properly, and that the drivers are properly prepared for driving. That means occasional training related to that. And again, we have online training, reminders about defensive driving. There's the Driven to Distraction program sponsored by the National Safety Council that helps out with bringing those reminders to people, very inventive ways, keeping that message out there with motor vehicle safety.
Good tips.
We want to make sure that people, any kind of equipment, they know how to operate it. getting on and off the equipment, whether it's a mower or a pickup, using 3 points of contact, getting on and off, looking around the vehicle before you back up. The one cone policy helps out a lot of entities. They put a cone out to be sure that the employee walks around, especially in a housing authority where you may have children running around. They're not going to pay attention to the
Very
vehicles.
important to look back and look at surroundings, the fundamentals of operating and using equipment. So yeah, good points.
Speaking of motor-driven equipment, talking about mowers, the thrown rocks, but then safety for the employees, that if they have rollover protection, they need to use it, and the seatbelt, they need to use it, and refueling.
Refueling. Also be aware of the slope. If it's too much of a rich slope and they're using a mower, that could tip over. So very important to look at the surroundings as well when you're using power equipment.
And looking at that slope, a lot of people may just think that mower is okay. It's not going to roll over. Yeah, it does. And there's actually been some very serious injuries and deaths related to mowers.
And we also have a lot of resources on operating equipment and using of equipment.
So we've talked about a lot of the major issues, Ted, and that we can't go in depth on all of those because of the time that we have, but we certainly want to leave you all with understanding that there's a lot of services and specifics that we have in regards to training. We mentioned mower safety, back injury prevention, fire prevention,
vehicle operation safety,
vehicle operations, ladder safety. Be sure that you realize that we have online learning that is free to you to use as part of a member of the risk pool, and also DVDs and webinars to help you with that, as well as we have on-site visits.
Yeah, give us a call.
Somebody like Ted will come out and visit with you all with your exposures, maybe even review specific claims or trends that you have, and take a look and see what kind of services we might be able to provide. For those that operate master meter systems, we work with a consultant on master meter systems that are gas related and helping with compliance and other safety issues related to that. And again, just give us a call. We want to make sure that you know that we're available for us.
Yep, be happy to help them.
Okay, anything else, Ted?
No, I just want to, again, thank you for the opportunity to come out and finding another way to talk to our members on reducing and preventing incidents in the workplace.
Okay, well, thank you, Ted.
Thank you, sir.
And on behalf of the Texas Municipal League Intergovernmental Risk Pool and Loss Prevention Department, Ted Mendoza and Chris Remmert signing off. Thank you.